Personal and social identity, a sociological view of the self. Since the beginning of civilization, the term self has been in focus to identify what it entails. It has been debated by many scholars from different fields of academic study, such as psychologists, philosophers, biologists, and sociologists. In the sociological view, there are some proponents of the phrase that the self is nothing more than social and personal identities. Self-definition is the collective aspect of the set of characteristics by which a person is recognized or known. These entail behavioral and personal characteristics by which the individual recognizes himself. Thus, the term self is a compound thing made up of different identities. The self is a very complex matter, but it can be expressed by the two major categories of identities, social and personal. The complexity of the self is brought by the fact that human beings are social, and the general social and personal identities are frequently influenced in one way or another by some external factors. This contributes very much to the conception of oneself. It is therefore quite possible to have a variety of selves in one individual at varied periods of one's growth, depending on some factors. However, the self will remain to be generated by the two identities. Personal identity refers to the essential things that contribute to self-consciousness, which make one uniquely what they are at any point in time and what further persists over time, despite superficial modification. It makes them the same person at different points in life. It makes someone know who they are. Such properties are inherent and unique to an individual. Hence, they make everyone different from others. These include an array of values and convictions that are within. They are born with a psychological identity, which cannot be corrupted or changed by others. These personal properties are not bound to be lost or gained while someone matures. These leads make a barrier to the acquisition of new personal identities, which might bring a new personal identity to be carried on. We can therefore, in one way, rely on personal identities as a major determinant of oneself. This is because it depends on internal facts that are carried by an individual, which characterize what is inside the particular person. The self is further attached to identities referred to as social ones. Social identities refer to the identities that deal with intergroup relations. That is how people come to see themselves as members of one group or category in comparison with another. They are very concerned with having the same personality as others in a certain group. This will therefore bring a sense of self as a cultural construction. The character of the different group members makes other people charge themselves in line with that group. One's social uniqueness is portrayed through one's social identities. How individuals act in life events in society is the uniqueness of one's experience and one's distinctiveness from other people. The acts are so much linked to what they do to their friends, relatives, and other people whom they meet. To have a social identity, therefore, means to act to fulfill the expectations of the roles of others. It also requires acting to coordinate with people who form the environment one lives in, which is facilitated by negotiating with others in rightful ways to live happily and not sadly with pain. It is up to point vividly that the self is just a measure of two identities that cannot be added to or subtracted from. This is because our identities bring out the things within us in order of their value to us. Secondly, the social identities give a wider array of the external character which we portray to others, and this is coordinated with what is on the inside. This is why one of the early sociologists, George Herbert Mead, said that if we are thinking about changing some features within ourselves, we must first think of changing the underlying self, and this will bring the dissimilarity between the various characteristics of a previously existing person and the unexplained self that abides those qualities. It is considered that the self has an intimate consciousness of something other than a meticulous perception, hence making the self of an individual a package of two different identities, which support one another with unimaginable promptness, only to achieve full identity of self. According to the theorist Erving Goffman, I can therefore say that the question of personal identity and social identities is a matter that differentiates the free structure of one's understanding in self. He said that the way of our perception, and the steady change of our ideas, our thoughts run straightforwardly from one suggestion to another that may resemble self, as it gives our values and determines our social interactions. I then consider the self as a combination of the packages of personal and social identities, as all the other identities are held constant and contribute to these two. This is because our identity through time consists of other special inward hidden factors, which are personal and social identities. The others are only mental and physical continuities of the self, which include psychological and spiritual identities. They are confirmation for the self, but do not define it to any extent.